Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. It is me once again, screaming into the void of the internet. I didn't really have anything planned today to make a video on, but my friend sent me a video, and a lot of guys in this space talk about how it's over and it never began, and it all ties back to the lack of a gal into a family, and all the air quotes, kids, happy life, blah blah blah. But essentially, what this video was about was this guy, and he's just smoking. And his wife, she doesn't ask it in an aggressive way. She said, "I thought you quit." And he just like breathes with a sigh that he wants a divorce. And essentially, the video is about. And I actually take the woman's side in this, okay? Because I don't really have. I understand that you're tired as a guy, but the moment that you choose to bring a kid in the world, you don't get to just run from it. Because he wanted a divorce, not because his wife was bad, not because she was nagging. And I'm sure that there are always, closed marital doors issues, but she didn't really raise her voice, much, but she felt like horrified. Because he didn't want a divorce because she was bad. He wanted a divorce because he was trying to get out of responsibility. And a lot of guys in this space talk about, if only they had a woman, if only they had a kid, if only they had this, if only they had that. And they don't realize that life is a burden. It is a pressure. The more responsibility that you put on yourself, the harder your life is. I look at my friend, and I really struggle to understand how you could earn almost twice my salary. You could earn almost twice my salary, but you can put yourself into a position where you don't have anything. And I love the guy. I love him, but it just blows me away. You're earning twice what I make an hour. Twice. And you put yourself in a position where you don't have anything. I should not out earn you. But certain decisions that you make, we can't make them for people, will affect that. And this guy, I'm sure that his parents, told him that he had to work hard. He needed an education. He needed to find a wife and blah, blah, blah. Society told him he needs to have like this big, happy family. And listen, I don't think that those are bad things, contrary to what you might think as a bachelor, as a bachelor myself, right? I don't want a family. I don't want a spouse and stuff like that. That's fine with me. But I don't think that that's a bad thing. I don't think that's the way that everyone is supposed to do. This is my way. It's my life. It's my experience, right? I will never try and force you guys into this box and say, this is just the way to live and stuff like that. I believe for me, it is the way to live. I like being able to be free. I like being able to sleep in. I like the fact that I don't feel pressure. The more responsibilities you take on, it's terrible. And it's funny how people try and tell you that you have to take responsibility. Why? So I can look like you, I can end up like you and just not have any finances at all and just live like a slave? I don't think so. I go to work not because I have to in terms of how much I work, but because I want to. There's a goal that I have in mind that I want to reach. And I do it because, hey, the only way that I'm going to get it is by doing it myself. And there is nobody coming to save me. That's how I live my life every single day. That's what I have on my mind, in the back of my head. But this guy, he allowed other people to have such a massive say on what he's going to do with his life, that he has constructed this life. And I wonder if he ever really wanted it, or if he just felt that he had no choice, because he seems like one of these people, just based off of like how he is, in that video, that he probably is just, he just did what people told him to do. This is what he said. This is what people told him, would work, and he chose to go forward with it. And he did get a wife out of it. He did get a child out of it. But he realized, down the years, that this is exhausting. This is physically exhausting. This is mentally exhausting. This is emotionally exhausting. This is mentally exhausting. It's so exhausting. He can't do it anymore. But for him, again, it's not that his wife is bad. It is just that he realizes that there is no rest. The little thighs that you sink into when you come home and go, oh, it's all worth it because I've got the poon. That doesn't change that you're exhausted, dude. It doesn't change that you're mentally exhausted, that your body is aching. That doesn't change that. And this man is not only trying to get away from like her, he's trying to run away from the kid as well. So that's why, like, in this case, I'm actually taking the woman's side, like, you don't get to run away after you do that. That kid did not ask to be here, man. That kid did not choose its genetics. did not choose its starter class, noble, wretch, middle class. They don't choose that. This is why I tell people, like, especially when it comes down to kids, like, that is one of the most important decisions you're going to make. Not because I think that the act of having kids is the most important decision, but it's going to affect another human being for the rest of their life, for better or worse. And if you can't handle that, if you can't handle at least 20 years of responsibility, and that's a long commitment, 20 years, yeah. 20 years of responsibility, I'm telling you, you can't do it. You should not do it. Because this man is trying to bail out on his kid. And I understand he's exhausted, but listen, once they're here, there are no takebacks. There are no takebacks. A lot of people get divorced, but this man is, in his case, he's getting divorced because he wants to run. And I understand the feeling of just being exhausted, guys. I understand it. I really do. But there's a big saying, be careful what you wish for because you might get it. And for a lot of guys, they feel like that is the life that they want. Obviously not the exhaustion and stuff, but like the family life, but they forget that that life isn't free. A spouse is not free. A kid is not free. Like the house that you're living in is not free. Like the mortgage, like none of this stuff is free. You're in a world that is designed to keep you a slave. It is designed to keep you constantly working, never satiated, never satisfied, because that is not what this economy excels at. It excels by the desire for someone to spend, to be a consumer. They don't want you to have savings. They don't want you to have anything. They just want all that money right back in the economy. And since you have nothing, what do? You have no choice but to work. They don't want you to have the choice to just be content. And that's why I keep telling guys, like, one of the biggest reasons to Geomax isn't just like, the easier pick of gals. It's because you'll actually be able to rest, dude. I talked to this coworker of mine and we talk a lot, like we hang out a bit. And he's from Venezuela and he talks about how, if he made $500 American a month, he'd be set in Venezuela. He'd be set in that country. He's an immigrant. He's a legal immigrant. He's not illegal. He's a legal immigrant here. He's here on like working visa. And he'd be set. And he'd have more free time. And, I think about stuff like that. And I think about all these guys that are like going, for the family life. And I'm like, listen, if you go overseas, don't just go for the gals. Go because you actually are going to be able to rest. You'll actually be a part of your family. Because this man has a family and he's probably not even a part of the family. Like, if you guys don't know, like these like, because it's an Asian video, the Asian workload compared to ours, it's not even funny. Like, you're talking 60 hours a week. You're talking about people that are basically sleeping in offices just so that they can like just already be at work the next day. That's what kind of workload is on those people. And I can't begin to imagine like why anyone would look at that, would look at like the exhaustion on their parents and go, yeah, I'm going to do that too. Not because again, a family is a bad life. It's not worth fighting for or something like that. Not at all. But because that society does not want you to have anything. You have to get to a point where you just start recognizing something. Like someone left a comment on a video saying like, how do you like make solid money off of minimum wage? And I don't deny that, it also kind of just depends on where you are. Because like if you're in California, and that person mentioned it, that they were in California. California is doing everything in its power to take every dollar away from you. You have to get out. You have to get out of certain places. You have to recognize that. And that's something that I recognize that some guys are, getting their passports for that. They're getting it to get away. And I will admit, guys, like when I get my opportunity, and I will get my passport this year, I am going to be exploring different places because I feel like the only possible way that you'll ever be happy, is when you are in control of two things. Your wealth. Maybe it's not necessarily financial freedom, but you're incredibly stable. You are not worried about being homeless. You're not worried about being in debt. You're not worried about any of that, right? So it's financial stability, and you're in complete control of as much time as you can. Maybe not in complete control of all your time, but as much of your time as you possibly can be. that is when you will really be able to just truly just breathe and just know, I don't need to like punch this clock. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. I can do what I want to do and be with the people that I want to be with. You know what I mean? And you look at these guys who fell for the lie, who fell for all that stuff, and eventually they just reach this breaking point where, whether it's just the guy in the video, smoking in a chair at his table, and just complete mental defeat, or a guy sleeping in his car in his driveway because he dreads walking into that house. And again, in this guy's case, his wife wasn't, at least she didn't seem like it. She wasn't yelling at him. She was just like kind of holding him accountable. And yes, I do take that side, because if you're trying to run away from like your family and you created a kid, like, no, there is no running away. You don't get to run away now. That kid needs you. Like, they didn't ask to be here. You don't get to run away now. She's holding him accountable. And he's crying. In the video, he's crying, and I don't like mock him or anything. It's just, it's sad to realize that you were sold this lie that you have to do this, and like once you get this, your life's perfect. Because the truth is, guys, like, the shoe doesn't fit everyone. The whole Cinderella glass slipper, that doesn't fit everyone. Not everyone's foot is gonna fit in that glass slipper. And that glass slipper, for me, it's a bubble. It's a bubble, It's a bubble where a lot of people think that everyone is going to fit in it. Whether it's like, the bubble is consumerism, family, relationship, whatever it is. Politics, religion, whatever it is. You got to understand, guys, you have to choose yourself. And I mentioned this, I think, in my Rumble video, but I'll say it again. The Spider-Man trilogy, I can't remember if it was the first movie or the second movie, but I think Peter starts losing a bit of his powers for a minute. And he said, no more Spider-Man. And it just has this upbeat notion where he's looking at police like run into action and like stop crime. And he's realizing that, once upon a time, I would be putting on my suit and racing towards that direction. But it is fine for me to choose myself. And the thing is, once you become a family man, once you become, a spouse, whether they are married or, in just a relationship, you can't choose yourself all the time anymore. You can't do it. There's no running away from your responsibility. Now you have responsibility to this person. They are depending on you, whether you're a man or a woman. You can't run away anymore. And people like to call people like us, like, who choose like a more like, solitary life, that, oh, you're just a coward, you can't handle responsibility. That's not true at all. I'll tell you guys straight up right now, my emotions are like pretty much numb at this point. I don't have many emotions. But I'll tell you straight up, I could make a great husband in terms of duty. I wouldn't make a good husband in terms of emotions, because I certainly wouldn't have a heart left to feel. But in terms of duty, I make a good husband, because I can punch those freaking 90 hours. I can punch those 100 hours like it's nothing. Like, I can show up to work consistently hours early like it's nothing. Where you got people who are like younger than me, and they're just dragging their feet. And here I am, moving way faster than them with more agility and everything. I can do it like it's nothing. But I do not want tons and tons of bills and just burdens around my neck. Okay, I am not a pack mule. And nobody is a pack mule, for that matter. But it certainly feels that way when you don't have a choice. And you got to understand that the moment that you choose that family life, and I'm not saying it's bad, but the moment that you choose that family life, that becomes a burden. And what your goal is you want to get to the point where, despite it being a burden, is a very light burden to carry. And there are ways to mitigate that. And one of the best ways, again, is to GeoMax. So that you actually can be with that family instead of just serving some massa at a freaking corporate job. I choose to avoid responsibility so that I don't end up like that. Looking at that guy and just seeing the tears where he's just crying, he says, I just want to get away. And he's crying his eyes out. It's really sad to see. But you can't run from your responsibilities just because you're overworked. And that's the worst part, that there is no escape. There's no escape. You've locked yourself away. You've signed away your life by doing that. You could run. You could go be a hobo and you could like just abandon the family. Yeah, you could do it. But it will find you. Especially with the use of today's day and age with the tech, it will find you. Now, I'm sure you're probably like, well, what about like these Chads and Tyroons that get all these girls pregnant? Like they're just living life. Yeah, you could argue that. But you better believe that if these people really wanted to, like if these girls and gals and whatnot that like they've been a part of their lives and they've gotten pregnant, they really wanted to, they could come for him. They probably don't because, again, he's still a Chad or a Tyrone, and part of them hopes that one day he'd come back. But trust me, like, if you're just an average guy and you didn't got a gal pregnant, oh, they come down with you with the full force of child support, the court orders, everything. And there's only so many jobs that'll pay under the table. Like, you will be completely destroyed or you will be arrested. There is no escape. And I just wanted to say this, guys. I don't think any of us should use the black pill as a way to get into defeatism, into nihilism entirely. Like, if that's what you want to do, I can't stop you. It's your life. It's your perspective. It's your decision. But you got to recognize that every choice has a consequence. You know, and even the choice of doing nothing has a consequence. Consequences of action and consequences of inaction. And this man is suffering from the consequences of his actions. You know, whereas a lot of people in a previous video that I made would say that this man is winning at life because he has a wife and a kid, and a family, and a house. He is exhausted. He's in tears. He's having a mental breakdown because he cannot do this, and he wants to run and he can't. There is no running away. And I want to say this again. I'm not dumping on the family life. I don't have anything against it. I don't have anything against it. But you got to understand that that life is not free. And if you cannot handle burdens, if you can't handle responsibility, that is not the life for you. I have no problems admitting that is not the life for me. I knew at the age of 12, when I was basically helping raise my mother's kids, that I did not want to do this. I did not want to. I could see when my mom basically had this massive streak of gray in her head from stress at 30 years old, I knew I did not want that. Okay, I did not want to have to deal with the nonsense. It's not that she didn't love her kids. She loved us. She loved us, okay? And I'm sure that this guy does love his daughter, but you're still a person. You're still exhausted. You want to get away. And there is no getting away. And when you look at these parents that say this isn't fair, of course it's not, but you made that decision. Unless somebody had a gun to your temple and told you to ejaculate in this person without a condom. You made that decision. Unless, someone put a gun to your head and said, you're going to let me get up in here raw. You made that decision. You have to understand that there are consequences for this. And if you really struggle to see yourself being responsible, it is for the best that you choose to avoid certain things like this. It doesn't mean you have to be single. But you got to make sure you aren't having kids. You got to make sure of that. And if you are in a relationship, you got to make sure that the person you're with is not working you like a taskmaster. Because his wife wasn't working him like a taskmaster. He was just doing what was expected of him to do, but he still realized that despite the fact that he doesn't have like a wife who's like, awful or anything and raising her voice and yelling at him, he still has to work and all of this burden is on him. But he came to that realization after he already had that life. Not before, not by watching other people and learning from them. He learned, unfortunately, the hard way by going through it. And now there is no escape. And I really hope that he doesn't take his life. Because when guys get into that position, that is probably the next step that they do. When they realize that there is no changing this, that this is going to be their life for God knows how long, they just take their lives. And that's awful. You know, I'm happy my friend sent me that because, you know, I don't come on here and like just try and constantly gaslight you or myself that we made the right choice or whatever. Like, I just tell guys to choose what's best for you. You know, don't make a decision because like someone else told you that this is the best thing that you can possibly do. You know, I take other people's advice into consideration, but I get the final say because it's my life. And I'm sure that this guy, I'm telling you, just by listening to him, I don't think he's really chosen much. I think he's always just done what people have expected of him, and it's led him to this. You know, there is nothing wrong with choosing yourself, guys. There is nothing wrong with choosing yourself and prioritizing yourself, even if it makes everybody around you unhappy, even if it makes your friends and your family unhappy. Because when you do not choose yourself, you can end up like this guy. Just complete mental defeat. Nothing destroys you more than serving someone else. People like to believe that being selfless is its own reward. It's not. Because you are denying yourself every single time. And while you're making someone else happy and they're always getting what they want, you're not getting what you want. It's fine to be selfish. People try and tell you all your life that it's not fine to be selfish, but it is absolutely fine to be selfish. I would not have what I have now had I chosen to just be with my family and not prioritize my life. I wouldn't have what I have. You have to be selfish, especially if you are a man. There is nobody coming to save us. You have to accept that you have to be selfish. You know? But I'm not going to keep rambling. You know, I do have work, but I'll be off after today, so there's something to look forward to with that. But I don't know. Seeing that really kind of hurt me, man. You know? It really hurts to see another guy realize, but, you know, it's too late that he's made a decision that he can't. There's no changing this. You know, this isn't something like you can just pay off like debt or anything. This is something that he is going to deal with. You know, at least until the child is an adult. You know, and even then you could argue that you'll still have to deal with it. Let's say that the child gets sick. You know, are you just going to let the child die now? Or maybe not the child, like maybe your child. What I mean, you know, like even as an adult, let's say that they get injured in the hospital. Are you just going to let them die because they're an adult now? I don't know. You know, it's something you have to think about. And it's something that I've thought about and I've seen and I've looked at the examples enough to know I don't want to deal with this. I don't want this responsibility. I just want to be free. I want to live my life and continue to make decisions for myself because it is the greatest thing that I have ever known. You know, like no man or woman is going to cherish freedom more than people who have felt trapped all their lives. And for a long part of my life, guys, I felt trapped. And that's why I cling to this freedom so much. It's why I cling to this peace so much. Because I don't want to go through it again. And I'm very sad that this guy is going through that. But there's no walking away once you have that family. There's no walking away from that. You know? But, yeah, I just kind of wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about that because that was something to see. That was really something to see. So, yeah. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'm just going to tell you this. Remember to choose yourself. Okay, don't put other people in the center of your life. Choose yourself. Choose yourself, man. Regardless of what anyone says, you know, it is fine to choose yourself. I don't mean it in this toxic way of like TikTok garbage where someone's like, don't let your spouse stop you from finding your true love. I mean it in the sense of you can't just do what everyone expects you to do. If that is not making you happy, if that is not making you content, if you can't stand to look at yourself in your life, then it's fine to choose something else that's actually going to make you happy. You know, this world is plenty miserable. Okay, don't get it twisted. You know, like I may be making money, but I'm not satisfied with money. I don't love money. I know what it is. It's garbage at the end of the day. Garbage that is designed to have us worshiping it more than, you know, being able to connect with our own species. But I live in a world where nothing I do is going to change that. So I have to deal with it, you know? And at the end of the day, I'm still going to just make my life as easy as possible. I don't care if someone feels like that's wrong or irresponsible. I'm going to make my life as easy as possible so that I can have, hopefully, an easy adulthood, because I've had a terrible childhood and honestly a terrible early adulthood, to be honest. But now that I'm in control, it's going to be as easy as I possibly can make it, you know? So I'm just going to end that. Just going to end that video. I can't even speak. Just going to end the video on that note, okay? Thank you guys for watching. Again, choose yourself. There is life beyond your pain. God bless. I'll see you next time.